All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of Opinion City. I am your host, Ralph Heinmarch, and I am, of course, once again joined by our esteemed co-host who needs no introduction. It's my good friend, Sean Russell. Sean, what is going on this week?
We have a lot going on this week. We actually have our very first, very special guest who just popped on the screen. He is none other than Ultimo Ant, the evolved green ant, the liberator of LuchAntLibre wrestling.
Love it.
That's right.
Ultimo, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I've been liberating LuchAntLibre all day long. Big liberator of the LuchAntLibre.
Big liberator, big liberator. It's great to have you on the show. We are super glad to have you. We thank you for taking your time out to talk to us on Opinion City.
I am very excited to be here. I've known Ralph forever. My whole being, to be honest, even before my original being.
Yeah.
So it's great to be here and to meet you, Sean, for the first time.
Yes, and it is great to meet you. So I actually saw you back in your early beginnings at 2018 King of Trios when you and the Resistance won the King of Trios tournament.
Yeah, that was a very long weekend in my life. Perhaps the longest of weekends in my life. I've never done more wrestling in one weekend than I did that weekend.
Yeah, that was just an amazing show all around, and I was rooting for you like the whole way, like your whole team, because you had such an amazing story going into that event. You had basically the colony was no more. You had Fire Ant going crazy, losing his mind, and then
Trust.
you and Thief Ant came in and saved the day, if you will, and you guys won the whole thing.
Yeah, that was there's a lot that went into that. I'm glad we took the journey. I do wish that I wasn't the one getting kicked in the face the whole time. But Thief Ant appreciated me taking the lumps instead of
I
having
can
to deal with it
imagine.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very cool time. The storytelling was, phenomenal. Just watching the whole weekend, and you had this sort of groundswell behind you guys that was just building the entire weekend. And by the time we got to those finals, people were so hot to see you guys win. It was just incredible storytelling. Just incredible on everybody's part.
Yeah. That was one of the few times where I've that weekend there's so many good matches to see that I walked away from some of our strategy meetings to go watch wrestling.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'd
Nice.
be talking about what method of attack we wanted to do, and I believe the one match was Quack versus Madison Eagles, and I said,
Yes.
"Excuse me, I'll be back when this is over."
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, because that was a long time coming as well. So people were like hot to see that too.
Right, we had to flip a coin who on our team was going to go out and go watch that because the other ones
Wow.
had to stay back and make some plans.
Yeah.
And I won the coin toss handedly, mostly because I used my own coin and didn't let them see what it was.
There you go.
Looked at myself, said that was definitely heads, and
Oh
off
man.
I went.
Good call.
So
Yeah.
how did you evolve from Green Ant to Ultimo Ant?
Well, that was the funnest of stories because as history goes with green ants, eventually they have to evolve. There's never been a green ant that stayed a green ant. Um, that's seen by the last green ant becoming silver ant.
Yes,
Sure.
yes.
And seeing as the likelihood that anyone is coming out of the anthill after me um, is very slim. At the very least, I know I'm going to be the youngest ant out of the hill because we've picked up our colony and moved it uh, across places and not really many wrestling schools where we moved the colony to. Uh, but being the last ant out of the hill, I thought that would honor me some recognition as the last ant, the Ultimo ant. Um, of course, I might have stolen some of the name from some great wrestlers who may or may not be on my list later on.
Ooh,
Ultimo
Yeah.
Dragon.
Oh.
Little,
who I
Teasing-
did see.
Teasing the list already.
little
Love it.
Teasing it.
already.
Teasing it.
Little
Not,
teaser.
Yeah.
not giving away.
If we
But,
haven't
I
mentioned
did.
it before at the top of the show, this week's main topic is top 5 favorite masked wrestlers.
So
Right,
yeah.
And
Very cool.
while Ultimo Dragon may or may not be on my list, I did see him since I took on the Ultimo Ant moniker,
Ooh.
and he did not beat me up. So therefore, I took that as permission and an
Very
endorsement
nice.
from Ultimo
Very cool.
Dragon.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Use the Ultimo name.
Very good. It's like he,
Yeah,
passed,
that
he passed on the torch to you.
Yeah. I mean, I did drop kick him one time in one match as Green Ant in New York City. He got in the ring in my face, and I said "pa-pow" and kicked him right on the chin. So I think he saw my resilience, my integrity with that firm drop kick to the chin, and
Yeah.
he said, "That's a guy I want to carry on the Ultimo legacy."
Exactly.
Or he didn't remember me. I don't.
Yeah.
Either way.
Either
Well,
way, it was passed on to you.
Yeah,
Either
well,
way,
that's-
he didn't complain. That's all I wanted.
yeah, that's a very Ultimo story.
Yeah.
It was very cool. Yeah, so as you kind of mentioned, you and I have known each other for a long time, even before the Green Ant days. So let's talk a little bit about kind of how you got your start. What really got you into the world of wrestling? What made you want to be a wrestler?
Yeah. So I come from a lovely family who has watched wrestling for generations. My nana used to go to the wrestling shows when she was a kid, where they had wrestling shows back in the 60s and 70s and the 50s. Lord, if I know around here, but she would go there and then go hang out with the boys after the show because she was a looker back then.
Yeah,
And then my father would also go to the shows because he lived in South Philly, so that made it easy for him to go to all the WWF shows. And he worked at a local Denny's where they would come in and eat. So he's watched wrestling forever.
very
Um,
cool.
and so growing up, wrestling was always on the TV. And I've been trying to figure out what family we were during the Monday Night Wars when I was going through kindergarten and remember watching TV. But I believe we were a channel flipper family. We had no allegiance. We weren't WCW or WWF. We were wrestling, which was always fun.
Yeah.
One of the first independent wrestling show that we went to was in my town. And looking back at the card, wild time. It was a pro. I think it's a 01 USA show.
Oh, wow.
It's the one famously or infamously, as it may be, where CM Punk pooped himself in the ring
Oh.
and continued wrestling his match against his Japanese opponent.
Sure.
But the important part was I saw Dustin Rhodes for the first time in person.
Oh,
It was massive and almost hit the chandelier in the building on a suplex.
wow.
Oh,
Which,
wow.
as a kid who used to go to my young rec league banquets to collect my small plastic trophies
Mhm.
in that very room, seeing someone almost kick the chandelier sent my mind into orbit. That this was a possibility. That there was wrestling not in arenas but in smaller rooms.
Sure.
And then I started falling into Chikara. I was going to those shows since 2007 and 8. Went to as many Philly ones as I could get my parents to come to and bring me to. Um, saw that there were people that looked, not like what I imagined WWE people to look like wrestling, and went, I could want to do this. I even pitted what school I would go to. Again, there's a match against Quack and Delirious in a King of Trios tournament.
Mhm.
It's Masters of a Thousand Holds versus, I believe it was just Incoherence.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
the winner of this match, that's the school I'm going to go to. I believe
Nice.
Delirious won, and I didn't go to his school, so lied to myself there.
You lied to yourself. You lied to yourself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wound up at the Wrestle Factory. especially after seeing all the other ants that have passed through there.
Mhm.
Um, I went to one of the they had a tryout where one participant would get free tuition. That was eventually won by Travis Huckabee. But Crumbles and Defarge were there. There was a few people that wound up in the school that all went to this workshop to try to get free tuition.
Yeah,
Oh
And
wow.
and
that's cool.
then yeah, a few months later they started doing the O1 series, which were 7 week chunks of pro wrestling classes. And I happened to work around the corner from the Wrestle Factory,
Oh,
so
wow.
I had both money and a location that was very convenient.
Yeah.
Nice.
I started learning under Ophidian, learned all of the snake moves, and that wrestling falling on the canvas while miserable wasn't the worst thing I've done in my life. And I said,
Mm.
this could be for me. And I stuck around for as long as they'd let me stay around in the O1 series. Um, Eventually, they were like, hey, kid, it's either time to sign up or get out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
and Once you've been bitten by the wrestling bug, there's no getting out.
Yeah.
Terry Funk will tell you that.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
you're in for life.
Yeah.
Um,
So, who was your favorite wrestler to watch growing up? And was there one wrestler or wrestlers that made you want to become a pro wrestler?
yeah. Growing up, it's always I want to say the Hurricane, which is kind of an odd answer. I always loved watching the Hurricane or Tajiri, like that whole cruiserweight division, where everyone was moving at speeds that weren't used to the bigger guys, like the Kevin
Mm.
Nashes of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, TNA's X Division, oh, it blew my mind. Alex Shelley and
They are
Chris
my
Sabin.
favorite to watch right now
Oh,
and have been for a
I
very long time.
I told myself that I needed to be their size because they're billed at 5'11" and 185. Uh, I'll let you in on a secret. I met Alex Shelley once. He is not 5'11". And again,
Yeah.
the illusions of my life were shattered in that
Mm.
moment. And I said, "Oh no,
Yeah.
I thought I was on path to be a good wrestler, and I need to put on more weight now."
Oh, boy. Yeah.
uh,
That's some great answers there. The Hurricane's really interesting because if you look at a guy like the Hurricane, people that knew him before the Hurricane as Shane Helms knew, how really talented he was, and then you see him kind of combine that with a bit of the sort of sports entertainment side of things with everything, he did with the Hurricane gimmick. It's the perfect marriage of sports entertainment and athleticism. And when I watch you wrestle, I see the exact same thing. Like you've got that perfect blend of a really really great character, something that people can really get into, but you've also got that super athletic side to it.
oh, thank you. I'm glad you think I'm super athletic.
You can do
Yeah,
certain things in the ring that I'm sure nobody in this current podcast can do other than you.
Yeah. Oh, that's for
uh,
sure.
I think if you gave me 3 days with you guys, I could get you doing the same thing I've been doing.
That sounds like a challenge for somewhere down the line, but yeah,
I
I
appreciate
don't
your
know about that.
confidence. I appreciate your confidence in me, but
Yeah.
I don't think we see that.
So, just to kind of circle back to the Chikara training, so did you had you known about the school? Was it that maybe you saw wrestlers that came from that school that you thought that was really kind of where you wanted to go?
What really made me want to go there was how much they taught, um, all the different styles of wrestling that they taught. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm sure, even watching some of my matches, you realize that I don't like just one style of wrestling. And like, if you watch me against a series of opponents, maybe even like the last Young Lions Cup, the opening round was Joshua Wells, at Vertigo, and the Spoiler, and each one of them comes with a different style into the ring. Um, I love that because it allows me to pull from my brain how each of them are going to come at me, um, and adapt to how they do it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Joshua Wells was really big into chain wrestling, and I smoked him. Smoked him. Like I
There you go. Yeah.
said.
Um, Yeah, so I definitely think, and everybody that's on this podcast, I think, can kind of attest to this. But when you looked at Chikara as a promotion, and then when you'd go and see other promotions, other indie promotions that had wrestling schools as well, I think this was one of the big reasons why Chikara was such a draw to people as well, is that the wrestling in Chikara was just leaps and bounds above what you'd see from other indie companies, especially the guys that were just coming out of training. Guys that came out of the training school, the Wrestle Factory at Chikara. I mean, they were ready to go. Like there was not a learning curve. There was not like they were ready to go, and you could visibly see the difference between that and some other promotions where they had wrestling schools and those guys just weren't as well prepared.
Yeah, there's part of the Wrestle Factory curriculum, to peel back the layers of their curtain a bit. There was a beginner class, and to advance out of the beginner class, you had to perfect or show mastery of like 88 moves. Um, you would take
Wow.
a test, and Quack would sit on a bleacher or outside the ring. You would have just a partner in the ring, and he would say a move. Like sometimes it was a victory roll. You had to get into a victory roll and perform it safely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, sometimes it'd be a string of things that you would have to then put together on the fly and show that you could do these moves safely. And that wasn't to graduate out of the school. That was then to just put you into the advanced class.
Oh
Wow.
wow, that's interesting.
And then the advanced class taught you. I mean, there were nights with Mike that we were spending. 2 hours was the class time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we'd stretch it to 2.5 or 3. Um, and then depending on the night, I'd be there an hour after everyone left, just going over anything I needed to go over. There's a lot of rope trick moves that were happening at the time because Ray Phoenix was picking up speed,
Mm-hmm.
and I said I want to learn all the things that he does. So I spent a lot of time there just learning how to bounce off of ropes. Um, but
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time in training, one, mastering your basics, and then moving into an advanced class that really polishes uh, those basics and then adds in any of the 1,000 holds that Mike Quackenbush has to disseminate out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I can only
Yeah.
imagine what sitting under that learning tree must have been like. That's incredible.
Wild
Yeah.
times, especially for my group of students. I was the official class stenographer and record keeper. So any new move we taught went into my journal. Uh, with this is the official name, and this is the official way to do it. So if anyone ever, uh, you know, questioned what moves that there were out in the world for a certain uh, attack or in defense of things, they
Yeah.
would be coming to me, and I would flip open the Rolodex. And say, this is what we got today.
That's crazy.
That's very
Going
cool.
going back to your time at Chikara, what do you remember most fondly about working with them?
I really, it's the thing I miss so much right now. Um, I really miss uh, a consistent schedule with consistent training partners.
Mhm.
Um, that's training has always been my favorite part. Performing is fun and exciting at times, but it's also very stressful.
Yeah.
Very like uh, you have to be ready for a lot of different things and thinking about a lot of different things while you're performing. Like making sure you don't kick some old lady in the front row as you jump out of the ring, and then apologize profusely. Uh, but during training, like the gloves are kind of off. You get to be more free. Get to experiment a little bit more. Um, and like being in a ring that I knew, with people that I knew, and I knew who I could trust and who I couldn't trust with certain things. Uh, that part was the most exciting to me. Um, that and the long road trips where a typical road trip partner for me would be Yolanda, the merch lady.
Oh,
Oh
nice.
yeah,
And
nice.
so she was always a hoot. Yolanda and the Cajun Crawdad were always
Huh.
were in my car, and let me tell you, the two of them together, uh, there are plenty of stories that would get the Cajun Crawdad looked at by some authorities.
Oh man, yeah,
Do you
that I can only imagine that must have been a crazy car because I mean, either one of them by themselves is just insanity, but the two of them together, and then coupled with you, that's I'm sure that's a great story in and of itself. Just those car rides.
Right. I'm pretty tame. Usually, you get me now around the Cajun Crawdad, you might get a little more out of me.
Yeah.
But the Cajun Crawdad, Yolanda, and I together, I am the voice of reason. But that voice and reason is skewing the spectrum a bit.
do you
Well,
keep up
and
with any of them from Chikara right now?
Sorry,
Do you
you keep
keep
up with
up with
them?
any of them right now?
Oh yeah, both of them, all the time. Uh, Cajun Crawdad, rest in peace, almost daily. Um, and
jeez.
Yolanda, weekly.
Yeah.
Almost daily.
I got my Ouija board out and we talk about the Bayou
Oh
needs.
boy.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, so I mean, obviously you're around with Thief Ant, but is there anybody else from Chikara that you really kind of? I mean, I know you probably see some guys on the indies here and there, but is there anybody else you really kind of
Uh,
have kept contact with since
yeah,
things went down?
the air show, the birds as they always be
Ooh,
to me.
nice.
Always talk to them, keep up with them
Yeah,
frequently. Um, yeah, Electro, he and I talk every day.
yeah.
Huckabee sometimes. Sometimes I'll send Huckabee a text message.
Hmm.
Usually it's to ask about how Mama Huck is going. Uh, but not so.
Nice.
He can kick some bricks, but Mama Huck will always be number one in my heart. Um,
Oh yeah. Listen, I sat next to her at many a Wrestle Factory shows.
yeah, she's a treat. My
Yeah,
favorite of
she's
the mamas.
fantastic. She's definitely fantastic.
Sometimes I see the king crab. Um, and let me tell you about the king crab. Now that he's a king, those pinchers are mightier. I don't like them. Pinches me more. He doesn't yell hermit crab as much, but he just yells king crab twice as often. And I don't, I don't know.
That's
That's a
funny.
long car ride when we were together.
Oh, I bet.
I mentioned it earlier that I was at the event where you and the Resistance King of Trinos Tournament Cup. Would you consider that one of your biggest defining moments in your career so far, or is there something else that might have topped that?
No, I think winning King of Trios that year in that way with that team, uh, it's tough to top currently as the biggest things I've done. I mean, I've wrestled in Japan. I've gotten heart punched by the great Sasuke.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
but like,
Badge of honor right there.
Yeah, right.
right,
Badge of honor for sure.
yeah. I mean, in that same match, I had the Brahmin brothers. One of them was kickboxing with me and punched me in the face a lot.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
I had a suitcase thrown on me
Oh
by
wow.
by one of them. So I've done some crazy things. But I think winning King of Trios is a very defining moment, especially how much King of Trios has meant to me
Hmm.
as a fan, as a performer. Uh, that was very much. I don't want to say the peak of my career because that's a sad time to have a peak 1 year into it.
1 year
Uh,
in.
yeah, but it's definitely a crowning accomplishment for me. It's
Mhm.
one of those ones that you can tell people, and people, go, oh wow. Um,
Yeah, I think that if you look at indie wrestling in general, you have these things that are kind of like these sort of watershed events. They have like this aura around them, and it's almost like how people revere WrestleMania. There's certain things on the indie scene that like are just constantly revered like that, and I feel like King of Trios just because of what it is for one, and how long it was around, and just if you look at the names over the years that have gone through King of Trios, that have come through the Chikara doors by way of King of Trios. I mean, you're talking worldwide reach here. So and listening to some of the like Quack and Bryce talk about just putting that event together and what it took every year. It gives you a real appreciation for what it is. And that was probably, I think that year was probably one of the sort of really biggest and most important King of Trios, just with the storyline that they were telling, with you guys winning, having that sort of homegrown Shikara team really take the tournament. It was really a big year for that.
Right. It had been years since a Chikari team had picked up a win in King of Trios like that. So I was very excited to break the outsider streak. I was very excited to win that match and get over with. It's a long. It's 4 matches in 3 days.
Yeah.
Brutal
That must have been
opponents.
grueling.
We started off with the Proteus wheel, who 2 300-pound guys
Two
and
big guys.
and a
Mhm.
200 and some pound monster, big men. Just everything they do hurt. Even when it looked like it wouldn't be something that would hurt, like just a boot to the face from them.
Mhm.
It's a 13.5-foot shoe sometimes. That's
Yeah.
my head. That's the whole time. No fun.
Yeah.
And half an hour with Fist on the second night.
Yeah, that
Just
was a crazy match too.
Yeah, I left that match. Tony Deppen smacked me so much, I had bruises down the side of my neck, just from getting slapped by him.
Yeah.
And then the Beyond team, which was Chris Dickinson, Brian Malonis, and Cam Zagami. Uh, Chris Dickinson, strongest man I've been in the ring with, especially up to that point. Just can pick you up and move you whenever he wants. That was a wild time. And then going into the Australians, Mick Moretti and the rest of his nations were just those guys. The Australians, let me tell you, to be incredible wrestlers, they're so good, and they're all stuck on their own continent. And when they break out, like every time they reach out and people see them, it just blows minds because they're insane. Uh, just an incredible set of guys.
Yeah, that year's really interesting. You
Yeah,
look
I
at
was
like
gonna say the same thing.
a lot of the teams, like you have like a lot of in just the 3 teams you talked about, beating in the tournament. You have such talents on all of these teams and in completely different ways. I mean, you had the Fist team that just the technical side of things and just the wrestling was so good, and then you have the Beyond team. I mean, Chris Dickinson goes hard every minute of every match. Like that guy just, he's a brick. Like that guy just goes hard. But you had so many different talents in so many different ways, throughout those matches, and just to be able to kind of, showcase all that talent as you're going through, and you guys were really, coming out on top in each match. It just, it shows you the magic of King of Trios. Like everything you get to see at one of those tournaments, it just kind of shows you how really special a time that was.
Yeah, I was grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Even just the people like that I could meet through the locker room were just incredible.
Sure.
Ray Bucanero, I picked him and Kikutaro up from the airport the night before. Which let me tell you, as a group of people that you didn't think would know each other, but then knew each other, incredible. Kikutaro said my car needed better air conditioning. That was that was what I left him with on that first night.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
But just Katie Lee Burchell, getting to see Katie Lee Burchell in person. Oh, huge crush from her pirate days. She wasn't even a pirate then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
were the days, man.
Yeah.
So I find it interesting that you make your own masks and some other wrestlers' masks.
Yeah.
How did you
my
come to learn how to do that?
great time. So in Chikara, as you start getting close to graduation, there was a group of wrestlers, sometimes referred to as the Moveset Boys, sometimes just by enhancement talent. Um, and so it came my time to become an enhancer. But the mask that I was given didn't fit really. Um, it was very tight to my face. I couldn't look at it out of it without doing the Razor Hawk look up.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it was
yeah.
very not
Yeah.
not well fitting. And so I had schemed with Yolanda in secret uh, to try to learn how to make a wrestling mask. Uh, because at the time, Closet Champion was making these masks for us,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and I thought it would be the greatest dishonor to go back to uh, Kate and Ophidian and say, "Hey, this mask doesn't fit. Can you redo it?" Um,
Yeah.
and so I schemed in secret to try to learn how to make my own wrestling mask. Um, Pulled up tons of YouTube videos that were of zero help at the time to me. Um, I made a lot of masks that were not very good. I learned how to rip a lot of ripping a mask is very satisfying. So I would make a mask that was terrible, and then I cut a little hole in it, and I go rah, like I was in
Nice.
some sort
Yeah.
of
The best
uh,
feeling. Probably the
yeah,
best
like I was in
feeling.
a match in Arena Mexico, and I was taking apart my greatest rival before I won his mask off him. Rip that thing open. Very
Yeah.
satisfying ripping noise. And after about 12 attempts at this, I realized I was not going to be able to make a mask on my own. And so I hung my head in shame and went to Ophidian's house and said, "Hey, uh, the mask that you made me doesn't fit. I've been trying to make one that does. I've been unsuccessful." And he said, "Well, show me what you've got." And I showed him, 10 ripped masks and two ones that were he's still kind of in pieces. And he said, "Well, these are terrible, but it's a
Oh
start."
God.
And he said, "Here, I'll teach you how to make one now." And so I apprenticed with them for a little bit, uh, broke off and started doing some of my own masks. And then at this point, uh, we're kind of, I don't want to say we're on the same level because the masks they make sometimes are leagues above the detail that I could do because uh, they are like the way Kate's mind works for patterning and stuff is
Mm-hmm.
incredible. She's done this her whole life.
Yeah.
But sometimes we call and trade secrets with each other on how we would do certain constructions. So
So
uh,
who else have you made masks for, if I can ask?
oh that's a list that I should have
Oh,
written down more.
it's a
Uh,
long list, huh?
It is. It's man, I've done some still life ones. I did Ursa Minor in the Night Sky had a pullover one. There was a point in time where I was the guy to come over. If you wanted an elastic neck,
Mm-hmm.
you would come to me, and I would ask for some weird exchange because I didn't know how much to charge for masks at the time. Um, so
Yeah.
I'd like still life one at one, and I said, "Hey, you give me some masks designs or some T-shirt designs, and I'll give you a new mask." Um,
Oh, yeah.
Ursa Minor gave me a custom Green Ant action figure. Uh,
That's
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
it is on the same quality that you would find at a dollar store, but boy, was it cool to have
Yeah.
a custom painted action figure. Um, I've done Boar's mask. Boar has a new mask that's all black with a chrome sickle.
Oh,
That
Mm-hmm.
that's
one's
cool.
Oh,
mine. Very exciting.
That's
We won
yeah.
cool.
a championship in that one, so that's always my favorite when I get to see wins on
Yeah.
my end.
Yeah.
Uh, I've I've had Carrie Awful's gotten a few from me down south.
Mm-hmm.
There's Why were they not the first on my list? My UK boys that have been messaging me for weeks. Uh, After the WrestleMania that was in New Jersey last,
Mm-hmm.
I
That,
believe it would have been 2019.
I, I
Kid
think that was
Lycos,
35.
yeah, Kid Lycos messaged me for a mask. And from Kid Lycos, I made his mask, Kid Lycos 2, his stand-in while he was injured, and now his tag partner. From the Lycoses, as we call them, uh, I got. He had a name before. He was a very goopy looking face guy. But then uh, he also got me his tag partner, Splits McPin. It was a bowling ball, and so I've
Oh,
had a series. L.K. Messinger, that's his name.
There we go.
Very goopy face man,
Yeah.
with half of his head off. Yeah, so I've had my fair share of interesting people come through my sewing room. Gear, I've done wrestling gear as well. I make my own outfits. The new Anthill stuff has
Hmm.
all been mine. I did Wheeler Yuta's white and gold and silver gear, the tribute gear to Silver Ant.
Oh wow.
That's cool. That's cool.
So
Yeah.
that was stuff that's taken me to. I get to check off Ring of Honor, MLW, and AEW with that gear, and that's always made me exciting. Now I just need WWE. I need some guy from WWE to
Somebody.
call me up and get a mask.
Speaking of
Yeah.
masks, do we want to go through your number 5 pick for
Oh.
favorite masked wrestler?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Yes,
Hit
as
it.
I pulled up my list. Number 5 on my list of favorite masked wrestlers. I would like to name the whole family, but that would mean more than one person in this spot, so I'll choose my favorite of the family. Brazo de Plato,
Ooh, that's a really good pick.
who later turns into Super Porky when he gets unmasked.
Mm.
But the whole Brazo family, in terms of trios wrestling, are my favorites. They are hilarious as bad men. They are hilarious as good guys. Even when they lose the mask, they have the most creative spots I've ever seen.
Mm.
The perfect blend of comedy and wrestling and seriousness when they need to be.
Very cool pick.
That's a really
Like
good
it a
one.
lot. Great way to start off your list. Let's go ahead and we'll get your number 4 now, and then we'll talk a little bit more.
Oh no. Yes. Sorry, my list just okay. Number 4 on my list. Be a current wrestler at
Ooh.
CMLL, currently getting ready to set up for a hot Mascara versus Mascara match. Templario. He's a big base god.
Mm.
Man, I spent many hours trying to emulate his moves
Mm.
in wrestling practice after hours, after everyone left. He does this very sweet jump to the middle rope and then twist to the top rope and come off
Mhm.
with a drop kick. I believe I tried to hit Colt Cabana with that one day. I remember trying to do his move in a match, failing miserably.
Oh
Um,
no.
uh, but to watch that man wrestle, incredible. One of my mask making friends, Gyarados, actually made a fusion mask of Green Ant and Templario for a mask making march uh, as a gift to me. It's the
Was
only mask that I own that has no eyes.
That's
was
really cool.
that on your Twitter? Because I feel like I've seen that.
I definitely took a picture with it.
Yeah, I think I saw a picture of it.
Training at a cheeseburger worldwide dojo
Oh.
night with the birds.
Nice.
So it's definitely probably on my Instagram, likely on my Twitter. I
Yeah,
wrestled Travis Huckabee at a Camp Leapfrog with it one day.
very cool. So you had mentioned before about Japan. Have you been outside of the country anywhere else?
Does Canada count? Because
Well,
technically,
I mean,
that-
I
sure.
think
that's
that
out of the
counts.
country.
I think
Right.
that counts.
It doesn't feel like out of the country sometimes, but it's no longer in the U.S.
No.
Yeah, you gotta have a passport and everything
Yeah, I
to
was
get
gonna
up
say, I
there
think if
now.
you need a
So
passport to go somewhere, it's definitely out of the country.
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So I've done Canada. I want to say
Mhm.
3 times now.
Okay.
Well, that's
I'm
cool.
currently winless in Canada.
Oh no.
So if more Canadian wrestling companies would like to bring me up so I can try to rectify that situation, I would be grateful.
Yes, you need to earn
Yeah,
your win
that's
back.
yeah. We gotta get Ultimo Ant trending in Canada.
Yes,
Yeah,
for
0
sure.
for 3 in Canada
Oh,
is not a great
3.
way to
Yeah.
go.
Well, listen. You may be 0 for 3, but I'm sure you put on a good show.
This my last Canada trip uh was a match that reinvigorated my wrestling spirit. I wrestled this man Excess and his son Excess Jr. Um, Excess is a Canadian wrestler from the Quebec area. Broke in with El Generico and Kevin Steen.
Oh
Mhm.
wow. That's a
Got
good one.
injured. came back with 2.0, got injured again, and now he's running around with his son. His son is 16 or 17, but his
That's
son
young.
is incredible. That boy hit me with a Dragon Rana, and I'll tell you, the Dragon Rana is when someone does a front flip into a Hurricane Rana.
Mm.
No one I know has ever attempted to do something like that, and this boy, in the middle of a show in a hot gymnasium, breaks that out like nobody's business. Um, and I've never been more amazed in my life, because as you see
Oh.
a human body flipping in the air at you, getting ready to land on you, there's so many thoughts that go through your brain. One of them being, "Is this real life?"
Yeah.
um,
It's really
but
crazy how, and I've told this to Ralph on and off the air, how age is no longer a factor in wrestling, whether it's older or younger. I think people like Sting have defied the age physics in wrestling, so I don't think age matters anymore when it comes to either being older or really young. They've had some wrestlers start at like age 10. Like, it's crazy nowadays, like the age range that wrestlers are still going at.
it's wild to me, because some of the best wrestlers I've ever been in the ring with have been not old enough to graduate high school.
Oh,
Hmm.
wow. That's
Um,
crazy.
there's this kid in North Carolina, Jackson Drake, uh, who I wrestled him for a small lucha trying show.
Mhm.
And this kid he would run down the entrance ramp and do the inside out 450, like it was nobody's business.
Wow.
The ceiling on this place wasn't very high. And I said, "Are
Mhm.
you sure that that's the thing that you use?" "I do it all the time. This is where I train." "That's all the time?"
Yeah,
What?
you know,
What?
like
That's just a
you know,
natural
I
move.
woke up yesterday and I just thought, well, you know, I don't have anything going on today, so I might as well, you know, just run to the ring and do that.
Yeah, just
Right.
a natural occurrence.
Yeah, I was blew my mind that I was just like, because I'll take a few risks in training and try to learn something new. But I'm like, at what point did you go to yourself, you know what, I want to try an inside out 450, uh, or outside in 450, and in a low ceiling like that? And he was like, "Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just something you do."
Yeah,
I
it's just
I
some
guess
Yeah.
natural,
so.
like, off the cuff. No, it's just natural. It's just do it.
Yeah.
Right. I was just like, man, to be that young, to not have any concerns about
Oh,
not getting hurt.
wow. Yeah. That's crazy. Just kind of keeping up with some of the you know, discussion about promotions. You know, obviously a lot of wrestlers talk about, you know, this is like their home promotion, kind of where they got started now, things like that. You know, being that Ichikara is really not around anymore, do you have somewhere now that you would consider to be like your sort of home promotion?
I might I might call it more a home state at this point, an adopted home state.
Mm.
Um, so there are now two companies in Vermont. There's the Eastern Township Wrestling Association, the ETWA, all the way up north in Newport and Derby, Vermont, which is uh, 10 minutes from the border of Canada. Um,
Wow.
I've been wrestling with them for I guess we're in their second year now. I was their tag with Electro. We were tag team champions for over a year. Uh, Recently losing those titles.
I
And
actually
then
met one of the cold hard guapos that you have lost your belts to at the Jericho Cruise this past year, Johnny Pierce. I
ah,
actually met him in person.
at
So,
least yeah, the tall one
yes, the tall
doesn't
one.
run his mouth as often.
Yeah, the tall one. He's the muscle, so he doesn't need to say much. And that's why he has the other one for the mouthpiece.
Yeah, yeah. His tag partner Ralph, if you haven't met him, is Diego Gonzalez, and he puts Rick Rude to shame with how much he does some hip gyrations. I'll tell you.
Oh wow.
Oh
Okay,
boy.
yeah. Oh boy.
Wow.
Six
Well,
times in one match.
Oh
well,
That
I'm
was
gonna
jeez.
just in the highlight package.
That's
well, I'm
six too
gonna have
many.
to seek that guy out. Oh boy.
Yeah, yeah,
Gonna have to check that out. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I know everyone loves a good hip
Man,
gyration,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
you are selling that gimmick hard, let me tell you.
he is
Man.
hard
How
on the
did it feel to
guapo.
have those tag teams for over a year in that small, and not it's small, but like in a smaller
I mean,
show like that. But you're holding their belts for over a year. That's got to be like a crazy feeling.
right. It was a wild time because those would be like, while winning the King of Trios tournament was exciting. Those were medallions. That's a once a year thing. You never defend them. They are yours.
Right.
We were the 2018 Kings of Trios. That'll never go away. But the tag team championships, those were that's something that is tangible. You're defending it every month. You're going up there. I believe there's only 2 months that we didn't defend it.
Oh,
Wow.
that's a
Perhaps
great streak. That's a great
yeah.
streak.
I know one was because it was the traditional Survivor Series style matchup, and I wasn't missing out on one of those.
Right.
Yeah.
So I said, put the title defenses on hold. We're coming here.
I don't
And
blame
then
you one
I
bit.
believe Electro got sick, so I wrestled Travis Huckabee in a singles match. That was the only time we didn't defend the championships. That was it was very new for us. Even though we've been doing this for a while, we've never been on top like that. Um, and it was a very exciting time. We got to wrestle some tag teams that sometimes had more experience than us, sometimes that were put together more. We still challenged that we only lost the tag championships in a 4-corner tag, where all 3 of the other teams ganged up on us
Yeah.
to
Oh.
get a pinfall
Yeah.
victory. So those
That'll happen.
those cold hard guapos like to say that they won the championships, but it took was it 6 other people to hold us down.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Being able to hold those belts for that amount of time, because that's got to feel good in sort of the same respect as the fact that a company like that is looking at you and saying, okay, we believe in you as a team, like we're going to put the belts on you, we're going to keep them on you for a while, because it kind of validates what you've done up to this point, that they're kind of seeing you in that light.
Right. Yeah, it was very nice to be recognized in that moment that uh, we were worthy, worthy of a shot, because we were put in a 4-corner. It was a 3-corner tag match for the
Mhm.
championships, and that was our second time in Vermont. So we
Wow.
went up right before the pandemic in early 2020, um, and wrestled a trios match. Uh, but then to bring us back and put us in a championship opportunity like uh, that was very exciting. And then to win was even more mind-boggling to us. Uh, it meant that we had to go up to Vermont a lot more than we anticipated, but
Well, I mean, yeah.
it's a great state.
I was gonna say,
Long
sounds
drive,
like you're enjoying your time up there.
Yeah, right.
long drive, but great state.
Yeah.
We've now come across some new activities to see. 'Cause we stop at the same rest stop, the Welcome Center, for Vermont. But now we've taken to grabbing some of the pamphlets for things to see on the way up. There's a dog park slash chapel that we have on our list to stop
That's
and visit.
Wow.
interesting. That's
Yes,
very
all
interesting.
breeds, all creeds are able to go visit this chapel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we
Very
can't wait
cool.
to go and see a few
Wild.
dogs get wed.
I guess the big question about Vermont is, are you tired of the maple syrup yet?
Yeah, right.
You know what we're tired of? We're tired of getting lied to about moose. We've been told that there are a ton of moose up in Vermont. We have yet to see one. We drive all hours of the day and through the night.
Yeah.
Have yet to see a single moose. Plenty of sign for moose, not a single moose in sight. Uh, uh,
If you do happen to see one, you need to get a selfie with a moose. Like
Yes, you need
that's got to be like top on your list.
that's your number one job now.
CC Boost rides up with us for these trips, and
Hmm.
it's been long declared that if we see a moose on the side of the road, we need to pull over, and CC Boost is going to have the first ever man versus moose match.
Yes. Yes.
That
I love it.
will be
That's-
filmed. Even
I love
the
it.
one day we detoured. Apparently, there's a stretch of highway in Vermont that is notorious for having moose sightings and perhaps moose-related accidents.
Oh
So
no.
we carefully navigated our way to that stretch of the highway to find a moose. No moose.
No
Still no
moose.
moose.
No moose.
Wow.
When you find that
Man.
moose, you need to document the man versus moose match and put it
Oh,
anywhere you can.
oh, believe me, the promoters up in the Green Mountain State do not like us talking about fighting a moose. But
Oh,
I
if
I wouldn't think
if
so.
if it came down to it, moose
I
match
mean,
is happening over any other thing.
living in Pennsylvania, got no room to talk. But could you imagine living in a state where you actually had to have a conversation like that's the road you avoid because there's lots of moose accidents there.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it was. I did a Google search and everything for it. Where do people see moose in Vermont? And they said there's a 26-mile stretch of highway that people get in accidents in all the time. Avoid it like the plague. And I said, no, thank
Nope.
you.
We're going
Eye of
head
the
on.
storm.
That's where I've got to be.
Dude, I need to
we
be in this road right now.
I love it.
we pulled over. We started calling the moose out. Just like every good wrestling promo, we said, "Hey, moose, you're a coward. Play his music." We had the music guy queued up, trying to figure
Wow,
out whatever song moose come out to. Didn't show up.
What would be
man.
your big, like, I guess, tag of the match? Man versus moose. What's the?
Does it need a tag more than
I
man
mean,
versus moose?
I think that's enough, but you never know. Just a
I
little
mean,
pizzazz,
I
you
would
know.
I might call it Mooselmania.
I was gonna
Moose-o-mania.
say something great.
Oh,
That's amazing. That's
that's
amazing.
incredible. Ralph,
Perfect.
I'll send you the ticket sales if Moose-o-mania happens. I will cut you into the box office.
That's
Done.
awesome. We need
Done.
Mooselmania t-shirts now. Oh,
Right.
that's great.
Put that on a shirt, man. That will
Yeah,
sell like hotcakes.
you better
Yeah.
believe it.
If the
So we
poor
talked about so
CC
many.
Boost like people, Moose-o-mania shirts would be his only merchandise.
I mean, until it becomes the match, then it's a real thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So we talked
All
about so
right.
many great. I was just gonna say we started about so many of great wrestlers that you wrestled in your
Hmm.
many different places that you've been. But who would you say is your favorite that you've faced against?
Oh. Oh man. Had an answer to that recently come up. But then I keep going back to my perhaps favorite match to go back and rewatch. Favorite person I wish I got to connect with more. Uh, Colt Cabana. Uh, got to wrestle Colt
Ooh,
Cabana for the Johnny Kid Invitational,
Oh yeah.
and even I believe I was only maybe a dozen or so matches into my career at that point. Uh, Everything just felt so easy. Um,
right.
it was very much even at a beginner like level, um, fun and exciting to be a part of. Um,
Mm.
Now that I've got more experience and I'm more surefoot in myself, uh, less nervous about how I'm going to do things, but more sure that what I'm going to do is going to be right. I would love to run that match back. I'm sure there are tons of people in the world that would love to wrestle Colt Cabana all the
Mhm.
Oh, for
time.
sure.
Um,
For sure.
Whenever I wrestle CC Boost, things get a little crazy. I enjoy that. Some days when I'm feeling healthy, uh, and I get to wrestle CC Boost, and I know I'm gonna walk out a little banged up. He's always a treat to work with. Uh, or uh, Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger was my more recent one.
He is a talent, man.
Incredible. Just another person that I'm glad I got to wrestle with, especially when I've been sure of myself. Uh, it through the pandemic wrestling, it's kind of hard because uh, I'm not getting to go to training as often as I used to. Just life has changed a bit for me,
Mhm.
um, and so it's harder to see the exciting uh, spots that I want to be in.
Mhm.
I'm very much a critic of my own work. and how I do things and how I could be better and things that uh, should be at a different level in my world. Um, so for a while there, I was very down on what my performance looked like. Uh, but then one day I got to wrestle Cheeseburger or Labor of Love Philly in a parking lot in Philadelphia, uh, dressed up as a mesh of Hollow Wicked and myself. It was it was wonderful. I'm glad I got to do it. Uh, really reminded me that sometimes being with the right person uh, is all that it takes to be back on the level that I want to be at.
Yeah. Cheeseburger is. I mean, Cheeseburger knows how to connect with a crowd in ways that a lot of people just simply don't. I feel like that guy could wrestle a broom in an empty room with nothing but chairs and have the chairs giving him a standing ovation because
Absolutely.
he connects to people. He's like the guy you'd see down the street when you go to like the 7-Eleven in the morning, or you know what I mean. Like he's very relatable.
Right. And like when they talk about the fan energy, like being a thing for wrestlers, where like they're feeding off the energy.
Mm,
That's truly a thing. Like being in a ring with Cheeseburger and having a crowd that's invested in your match, that cares about what's going on. It really makes the work easier.
mhm,
It makes everything you want to do better and you work to be better. Especially when you're opposite of Cheeseburger because he's taking all the reaction that you want. Like, don't worry, I'll get them on my side. Um,
mhm.
sorry, it has to be at your detriment.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so is there someone that you're aspiring to work with? Is there somebody that you haven't worked with yet that you really have a real interest in getting in the ring with?
Yeah, this is he's been around for a bit, but this is I believe his he lives on the East Coast now, and
Hmm.
Andy Brown. Uh, you'll probably have seen him at Wrestling Open, some Beyond shows. He's running all over the place on the East Coast. Um, I've been in training classes with Andy Brown, and the first time I ever saw him in person was a PWE show where I was in the crowd and he was wrestling Alex Price. And as a as a person, Andy Brown is hilarious. I love being around him. But as a wrestler, that man is so good. He's put on a little size over the pandemic, uh, but he can move. Like when he was a young, fresh spring chicken of 182 pounds.
Hmm.
Like he's a big boy now, but he's still got
Mm,
all the motion that he used to have, uh, and it's just incredible. The few times I've gotten to lock up with him in the ring,
mhm.
um, and then I'll get to uh, Tracy Williams is always one on the list. Hot
Yeah,
sauce.
yeah,
Uh, I do question some days if I could handle the smash mouth style that he brings to the ring.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
but it'd be great fun to go toe to toe with him.
Sure.
All right. Do we want to get into your number 3 pick,
Ooh,
Sir
sounds good.
Ultimo?
My number 3 pick. My f- I I'll preface this because I know one of my friends, Omega Masks, is going to hate me for choosing this as a favorite masked wrestler of mine. Um, Purely because of the mask is not a traditional wrestling mask. Uh, my pick is Tarus, who wears a
Oh.
latex bull mask and is perhaps the strongest man on the planet. He'll disagree with me when I see him, but that man is so strong and
He's
incredible.
crazy in the ring, man. I've seen a lot of his
Yeah.
matches. It's just nuts what he can do in the
Uh,
ring, especially for his size too.
he one time, uh, Ophidian flipped out of the ring right next to him, and he reached out with his left hand, caught the man, a full-grown man, and threw him back in the ring.
Oh,
Incredible!
Wow.
I've Who
oof.
does that?
Yeah.
Tarus does that. Tarus
Yeah.
the Bull Man does that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I love I love when you see, I love when you see big men that can just do like crazy stuff like that. Because a lot of, a lot of big guys don't necessarily wrestle the big guy style because they don't think it's, everybody's looking for, the high flying action. And you've got guys like Keith Lee, for example. Now, nothing wrong with Keith Lee. I think he's great. I think he's very talented, but he doesn't wrestle a very big man style. So, you get when you get to see some guys that really do some of the, big men stuff like what you just described. I think I think it brings much more to the match because again, you don't get to see that a whole lot these days.
Right. And to me, like especially with lucha, a lot of the basing, like a lot of being able to just pick guys up and throw them places. Oh, it's me going. I
Mm.
put on a few pounds, Ralph, since last time you've seen me. Uh, but so I've moved a bit more into the hybrid style of where I can fly, but a lot of the time I'm more of a base, and just having a great appreciation for the great bases out there, the
Yeah.
Taruses, the Gringo Locos of the world. Um,
Have you
will
wrestled
I ever
him
get to their
many a
level?
times before?
Sorry.
Have you wrestled him at all in your career?
I was in a match with Tarus. Uh, it's the strangest match ever. It was WrestleMania weekend, 2019, I believe it was, the New York one.
Mm-hmm.
I wrestled the Chikara afternoon show, and then traveled out of Jersey City into New York City to wrestle on High Spots direct challenge to the Joey Ryan or the Joey Janela Spring Break. I was on the Joey Ryan Penis Party match show. Um,
Oh boy.
in what they dubbed the King of the Concrete Jungle match, which this participation list is absolutely nutty. Uh, it was me, Puma King, Tarus, Mr. Iguana, Shark Boy, and Ultimo Dragon.
That's ridiculous.
Wow.
Absolutely nutty. I almost got bumped from the
Jeez.
match because I didn't ask for enough pay, as I was told. Because I was,
Wow, you didn't ask for enough pay.
I didn't ask
That's a
for
new
enough
one.
pay, so they said this
That's a
kid
new
might
one.
not be good enough.
Oh
And,
jeez.
Wow.
and
Wow.
props out to Rob Viper, the Lucha Gifts guy from Twitter, who got me the booking. He said, "Don't worry, he'll take more money," and kept me in the match as they threw in Ultimo Dragon as a surprise. But
That that that
wild.
that Jersey City weekend was a crazy weekend. I remember the afternoon Chikara show, and then that was the night of the Blackcraft wrestling disaster.
Oh yeah, I
I
got
was
home.
at that show. Let me tell
Oh,
you.
you were.
That was
Oh,
it was the longest show I've ever been to. I mean, I was, we were there like, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours. It was ridiculous. And they just, nothing worked right for them. That, no ropes, chain, barbed wire thing. That was the biggest disaster I've ever seen. Like, I've never seen a company self implode like that in one evening.
I got to watch that show. So I was at the penis party.
Mhm.
Um, I stayed through intermission, tried to sell some merchandise.
Sure.
And then that show was taking forever, and the trains from. This is Ultimo Ant. I've dropped off the call again. Don't worry, I'll be back soon.
As just as a little recap, you were at the penis party as any good wrestler would be,
As
and
any
you
good
were
wrestler
Of
would.
course.
you were
Of course.
you were trying to sell some merch to the penis party attendants.
Of course.
You're trying to get Ultimo Ant out there in the penis party world,
Yeah,
and
right.
I was suffering silently in another building at a Blackcraft wrestling show, which you apparently got to see a little bit of.
Right. Because I got home from the penis party, took my train all the way back to Jersey City to the Airbnb that I had
Mhm.
rented with a cast of characters.
Sure.
And so I walk into the room because it was like it was a one floor apartment kind of deal where people were sleeping all over the place, but everyone was gathered around the TV watching a wrestling show, and I was like, "Aren't they all done by this point of the night?"
Nope.
And on the couch was Warhorse, Jake
Okay.
Parnell,
Yeah.
and Gary the Barnow, not the Barnow anymore, but Gary J. Um, and Ophidian was my roommate for the night.
Mhm.
So I walk into this Midwest car that I had no idea who any of them were, except for Gary J. I recognized as being part of the submission squad. And then they're like, "No, no, no! You need to watch this disaster." And I said, I just wrestled a match. I want to go shower." And they said, "No, this is not the time."
You don't understand.
No.
You don't understand.
And so they kept me out there until it was over, and then said, "Okay, you can go shower now, but only now."
But only right now.
Oh,
Right.
that show was just insanity. I had attended that show and the Chikara afternoon show with my good friend Will of Front Row Chikara fame.
Yes, lowercase Will. Whoop.
Yes.
Lowercase Will. That's a great.
Yes.
That would be an amazing wrestler name.
Yeah.
Well, I'll
Yeah.
pull back the curtain that Ralph knows that I used to be the doorman for Chikara for a year and a half, and
Mhm.
everyone's name when they would buy their tickets ahead of time uh, would come whatever they signed up onto the Chikara website as,
Okay.
with proper capitalization,
Right.
except for lowercase Will. He was the only one on the list that was all lowercase letters. It's very easy to find him all the time.
Very easy
That's
to find them.
hilarious.
Very
Oh wow.
I said,
Man.
hello, lowercase. How are you doing?
Oh, yeah, I miss those days. Anybody that didn't get to experience Chikara in any fashion, especially live shows, and I don't want to get into too much here because down the line we plan on having a whole episode and a big thing to talk about Chikara, but the atmosphere there was just completely different than anywhere else I'd ever been. Um, the interaction between the fans, the wrestlers, the whole thing just felt like a big family. And here I was every other weekend driving 3 hours to get down to Philly to see shows. I'd be there early all the time because I always wanted to get my seat. I always wanted to sit in the same area, and just hanging out outside the building, and wrestlers coming in for the show, and we'd be hanging out talking outside. Sidney Bacabella would be telling me about what culinary delight he had in his smoker that week, or I mean, just the most ridiculous things. Watching the guys 5 minutes before the show starts show up with the hot pretzels, always my favorite. But it was just a different atmosphere. The word fun could not be used enough to describe what it was like to be at a Chikara show.
It was fun. It was interactive a lot of times. There were a lot of times where you guys made us feel like we were also a part of the show other than just observers. I know my favorite part for a lot of was the intro. Before the show started, we had Bryce come out and two people dressed in a fully black, like vacant outfit, if you will. They would perform like this is what we do, this is how we do it, this is how we pin, this is how you submit, this is how you do a count out. And it was just so fun because it was just over the top explaining how a match works, but in the most fun way. And it was just I almost love that more than the actual show itself.
Yeah, no, I believe they started doing that because this is Ultimo Ant. I've dropped off the call again. Don't worry, I'll be back soon.
So we were just talking about Chikara a little bit there, just kind of talking about the family atmosphere of things and
the fun atmosphere, the interactive, the pre-show. Yeah. Now, the people who are in those black suits, were those like trainees, not actual wrestlers?
Those were the moveset boys.
Okay.
Those were people that were on their way to get on shows, but tucked under a mask and very good at one specific move.
Yeah.
That's
very cool.
Hip toss Hank never got to show off his hip toss. Let me know. I've seen it in training.
Man.
Aces. Best hip toss you've ever seen.
Listen, I think that Chikara has to be the number one promotion in coming up with names for people, because
absolutely.
not just the no namers, but like, when Chuck Taylor lost his name and he was going under other names, like I always show people the show where he came out and he was announced as "This is how we do it," and I think that was one of my favorite ones.
Those were all Chuck Taylor creations. I want you to know that he has a book himself.
Of course he does.
Those were his own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scoot Tatum.
Yeah. Oh, such good times.
I believe one of my favorites I've heard from the book is "No Gimmicks Needed." Steve the Pirate.
Nice.
Oh.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Didn't he come out as Trent Barretta one time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So I mean, just like
why not?
nonsense, but so fun.
Isn't Chuck Taylor like an inaugural Ant? Because I think it was before your time, but he actually did, as I recall, steal an Ant outfit and then wrestle in New Japan as one of the Ants.
So
Wow.
Yes and no. He might have been part of the family at one point. But I found that the Japanese person who wrestled and stole that Chuck Taylor stole Green Ant's gear and gave to a Japanese person to wrestle was the Winger. He gave the gear to the Winger,
Mm.
and thus the lineage of all the people that have worn green and been an ant grew 3
Wow.
times that day.
Yeah.
I had never heard that before. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Apparently, Chuck Taylor found the right person to throw on the gear
Yep.
to pick up a win in Japan.
Yeah, I saw that and I was like, I wonder if that would be considered an inaugural Ant part of the colony, or if he was just a thief that stole one of your costumes.
He's a thief, dirty, rotten thief he is.
Dirty
Terrible.
rotten thief.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's time we get into your number 2 favorite masked wrestler.
Great segue. It's the one that I'm not allowed to use every time, but I'm going to use it this time.
Of course.
Green Ant, the OG, baby.
Yeah, boy.
Very cool.
Very good.
The one that made me realize that I could maybe possibly perhaps do this wrestling thing. Green Ant, the original. Deep in my heart.
Amazing. Very cool.
How were you bestowed as Green Ant 2, if I may so ask?
So as it was told to me, well, I mean, it wasn't really told to me. I left the colony as a Green Ant. We're from the same community, same look, same stature, same grizzly old man demeanor, and that's I just felt I was too much in the Green Ant community to not be a Green Ant in the world. Forging my own path, but
Yeah.
my brethren in green, one and the same.
I thought maybe he'd pass the torch on to you when it was his time to step down as Green Ant.
So by that point, he'd been Silver Ant for many years. I believe
he evolved.
I think
right. He evolved.
Yeah, as Green Ants do. Green Ants also point. They point and they evolve. That's what Green Ants do. Big characteristics of them. But so by that point, he was already in the retirement home, and I would visit him from time to time. But not much in the way of training with each other. I believe we might have only trained together once, and that was just in the same ring. It wasn't even an interaction together before he retired, which always makes me shed a small tear that my big brother was there, and we didn't get to do the do, as the kids say.
Now, why would he be upset that you put him on as your number 2? Because I think that's a pretty big honor to be put as number 2 on this list.
What you know here is he would never be upset about that. Green Ant the OG, very excited when I tell him these things. It's everyone else in my circle who says that's
Oh,
cheating.
okay.
That's not
Oh,
fair. I recently did. There was a Twitter thing going around of like you versus the wrestler, like the wrestler that inspired you.
Mhm.
Of course, I put myself in Green Ant the OG,
nice.
and I got lit up online.
Oh,
That's
I'm sure you
cheating.
did.
They said that you can't do that. I said, why can't
oh,
I?
that's
It's the
terrible.
truth.
Of course
Right.
you can.
Terrible. Do whatever you
Yeah.
want, man.
Right. That's
Terrible.
what I said. I said, get off my page. And
Yeah.
just block
Exactly.
them.
Get
I
out
didn't
of here.
block them.
Out.
Yeah.
Get out of here. That's it.
Yeah. I said, this is my corner of the Twitterverse, and I'll say who I like best in it. All right.
Exactly. So, what show or shows do you currently follow right now?
Let's see. Monday nights, I always watch Raw, even if it's terrible. I'm always
Mhm.
on the Monday
Yeah.
Night Raw train. You gotta keep up. What's the biggest one doing?
Exactly. Sure.
Wednesdays are a very interesting bag for me right now, because I will use this time to plug the brand new wrestling school coming to the Philadelphia area, the Catch Point Gym.
I am so glad you did that because I'm just finding out about this now, and I am so excited that that is happening because that is an opportunity for some people that, I mean, it's an invaluable opportunity.
Let me tell you, I love going there. Drew Gulak was one of my original trainers. One of my first nights after signing up to be a full-time Wrestle Factory student.
Mhm.
I did a class with Drew Gulak that was the most intimidating class I've ever done in my life. He would
Mhm.
get in the ring with someone, he would do a series of moves, and then would get out of the ring, and then the next person would come in and have to do those exact same moves. Um,
Jeez.
I was brand new. My first time in, I asked how to do something, and he said, "Just do it."
Oh,
Uh,
jeez.
and so I did it.
Sure.
And he said, "Your thumb was in the wrong spot, and move your feet this way when you do it next time." I said, "Should I try it again?" He said, "Get out of the ring." Okay, sir. Then I
Oh
got out of the
my.
ring.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Uh, Drew has a uh, he's very firm in his teaching,
Mhm.
but also is very encouraging in helping you get better. Every night that I go there, Wednesday nights are when I usually make my appearance. I'm trying to do Wednesday nights as my wrestling nights.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
so I alternate right now between the Catch Point Gym and the Worldwide Dojo with Cheeseburger. Um, when I go to Cheeseburgers, it's great. I get to help with the lucha.
Mhm.
But when I go to the Catch Point Gym, it's all ears on what we're learning. And Drew loves making sure that we're learning what we want to learn. He asks us all the time, "Hey, what do you guys want to work on tonight?" And then off we go with 45 minutes of in the ring wrestling to start you up, warm you up, and then into whatever class has that night. Uh, the only downside, the Catch Point Gym has a 20-foot ring, which
Oh.
is not a standard ring for indie wrestling.
Mhm.
No.
It's about 2 foot longer or 4 foot longer, depending on where you're at in wrestling there.
Sure.
So it's a big old ring, and if you want to do the things I do, like run across it,
Hmm.
it's a long way to the other side.
A long way to the other side for sure.
That-
Gotta make sure you got that cardio in check.
Yeah, right. Make
Yeah.
sure that you're ready to go for that stuff. I mean,
Yeah. It's interesting that you plug that because that gives me a chance to plug our last episode. If you haven't listened to episode 6 yet, please do. Interestingly enough, we went over our top 5 overrated and underrated wrestlers, and Drew Gulak was my honorable mention for my list because listen, if you've seen him on the indies, you know what he is. If you've only seen him in WWE, you are just hitting the tip of the iceberg.
you're missing
He
out on
won't-
who like really was. For
Yeah,
sure.
he'll never get the fair shot that he deserves in WWE. He'll never be featured the way he should be, because that guy would seriously wrestle circles around everyone.
I do believe, excitingly, the things that really matters is that The Office likes him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because if
that's
you
fair.
look at the people that he trains when he's there,
Mhm.
my man holds quite the accolade on all the people that have passed through him. Every celebrity that you see go into that ring, he's had a hand with them. So we might see him underrated around the wrestling fans, but where it counts, he's in good hands.
Very cool to know.
So then let me ask you on Thursdays, because there's multiple Thursday shows. Do you watch Ring of Honor or do you watch Impact Wrestling?
Ooh.
Oh, if I told you neither, I'd be
Okay.
outing myself because I have a lot of friends that wrestle on Ring of Honor TV.
Sure.
I usually try to catch up with Raw and AEW's Wednesday show.
Okay.
Is what I usually try to keep a grasp on. Sometimes, depending on the night for the pay-per-view or the premium live event, I'm not so hot on the premium live events all the time,
Mhm.
but AEW pay-per-views, I'll tune into an AEW event
Sure.
all day long.
Yeah. Speaking of older episodes, we mentioned in an older episode that and I can ask you real quick, Ultimo Ant, maybe get your opinion on it. This year's Double or Nothing, me and Ralph both gave it a B. How do you feel about that show?
It's fair. I think B's a fair rating. It really picked up in the second half.
It
I
wasn't
really enjoyed.
that it was good or bad. It was just kind of there to us because
Right.
they've had so much bigger shows than that in the past, and this one it just didn't feel like it had that same gumption that other live events that they've had on weekends have been. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I love anytime Jeff Jarrett gets to hit someone with a guitar.
Oh, of course.
Or
Yeah.
Karen Jarrett gets to whip out one of her own.
Yeah.
And the Four Pillars match was very exciting to see.
Was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of those ones that like I wasn't offended by it either way. There's a lot of stuff early on that I was like, this match, I'll take it or leave it.
Mm-hmm.
But like towards the back half of stuff were the things that I really wanted to watch, which is what they're really good at, is like stacking the back half of their
Yeah.
pay-per-views.
Sure.
They play the philosophy of if you leave them with something that they want to remember, they'll call it a good show. They really lean into that.
They've got so much. I mean, they've got so much coming up right now. I mean,
Lot.
they have a huge stack of shows coming up. I think. I mean, Forbidden Door on paper. I mean, this could be one of their. I mean, this could be one of the greatest shows in the last 10 years.
It
Forbidden
sounds
Door
amazing
has
so far, for sure.
it's got the opportunity, and you know, we're kind of at the point where what are we going to do here? Because are they really going to stack Forbidden Door any more than it already is? Because now they've got Wembley after that. So like, how do you because whatever you do at Forbidden Door, you've got to do bigger at Wembley. So it's a hard thing to kind of figure out the balance between those two. But I think Forbidden Door is going to be amazing. If you missed that show, I don't even know if you're a wrestling fan because it's on paper
what are
right
you
now.
doing with your life?
Yeah, it's just amazing.
Well, I'm very excited about Forbidden Door, but the Wembley show, that's where all eyes are. I think everyone's got an eye on Wembley.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, look, they haven't even announced anything yet. And I mean, ticket sales are beyond what people could have imagined they'd be able to do. So
they haven't mentioned a single match, and they've already sold over 60,000 tickets, which
that's
to me
insane.
is just insane.
I love it. It's my favorite. Let's get more in them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right? It's just,
Yeah, absolutely.
well, that's like so I'm going on the Jericho Cruise for the third time next year.
Mhm.
And he only announced one name, and it sold out. And it was Paul White. and it sold out in like, what, I think a week? And they haven't announced anybody since then, but they only announced Paul White, and it was gone before it was even on sale. I think
Wow.
that's just shows like the power sometimes that some shows have. You don't even need to announce a match or anything. You just announce maybe even one name, and they're sold. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I do believe, and so like on like a bigger level for a couple years, like Joey Janela's Spring Break, for the most part, like the atmosphere that they built on that first show, was incredible. Like the show name itself sells it more than anybody on it.
Absolutely.
Like even the LVAC shows in the Lehigh Valley right now, like they've never not sold out a show.
Yeah.
And right now, it's tough as a wrestler to I'd be hard pressed if I was emailing them to get on the shows. I don't need to email. I have other ins, you see. But
Sure.
the people that would need to email to get on the show, you'd be hard pressed to say I bring value to your show in terms of more people, because
Mhm.
those sell out on name value alone. LVAC doesn't have to announce anybody; they just
Oh
need to
yeah.
announce a show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they put out great shows. I mean, they've got phenomenal indie talent that comes in there. The people running shows are great. My friend in China that teaches English, that works with a wrestling company over there. He was ring announcer the first year. He emailed them up and said, "Hey, I do backstage interviews," and so just seeing how they run the shows and how they put things together. It is a very good show for an indie company, run by a t-shirt company. Like it's incredible.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. So that's why it's crazy to know that there are some brands that are worth more than any of the parts underneath of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, exactly.
wow, I love it. I hope that AEW recognizes the power that they have as just a brand with selling 60,000 tickets to Wembley on name alone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on just
absolutely.
the announcement alone, it sold out within I think 2 or 3 days, and it was just not that it sold out, but it sold above and beyond
More than people would
Oh
thought.
yeah,
what anybody
yeah.
thought that AEW would have done. They went above and beyond that and sold almost. I think they hold almost 80,000 plus in that arena.
Yeah, I think a little over
So to be at
80,000.
60,000 for a relatively new company that's only been 4 years old, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Oh, love to see it.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so let's move on. It's the big reveal here. Your
main
number
event.
one. Very exciting for this. This is the main event of our featured topic for the
Number
evening.
one
And
pick from Sir Ultimo Ant. What do you got?
yeah,
Oh no, that's fine. I'll leave it not on the mask. The honorable mention based
Oh,
off of masks
okay.
alone.
I
Okay.
love honorable mentions.
Good.
Mask alone, my favorite guy wearing masks right now, Titan, always comes out with something crazy,
Hmm.
doing the open mouth head ones. He's got the skull inside of it. He's got every variation of a mask in the world. Titan aces on the mask design.
Very
But
cool.
to me, the number one masked wrestler, uh, based off of influence and where you can see all the trainings he's done, El Maestro del Maestro, Skida.
Okay.
My man has been an integral part of wrestling
Mm.
all over the world. Uh, in He spent some time at the Wrestle Factory with Chikara, taught
Mhm.
us his versions of Yaves. When I went to Japan, I spoke no Japanese. I want you to know I spent all of my life preparing myself to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
So I learned to speak Spanish, and I go to Japan instead of Mexico. I don't speak a lick of Spanish or a lick of Japanese.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Michinoku Pro sends their students on excursion, and some of their older generation were members of the Toryumon project, which all learned under Skida. So it meant that while I couldn't actually talk to them with actual Japanese words, in the ring, we knew the same language.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, that's very cool.
If you look at Okada,
Mhm.
Okada learned under Skida. His reach throughout the world of wrestling is just so pervasive
Mhm.
that to not be my favorite would be a dishonor to the man who originated a style of wrestling and trained the world in it, that I've grown to love and try to do myself.
Sure.
Um,
And
Yeah.
that's what's really important too. Is you can look at wrestlers of a certain generation or certain style or a certain type, and you try to quantify what they've done into some sort of measurable amount, so you can say, well, I think this guy is greater than this guy. But it's really it's almost not so much about what they do in the ring, but the legacy they're going to leave, and what they've done, to better the business. And when you have someone like that who, has obviously, his, as you said, his reach is just, worldwide. Yeah, it's hard to argue with something like that.
Yeah, I mean, just on even second layers from him are just incredible. Australia learned most of their stuff from the Wrestle Factory,
Mm-hmm.
and all of our stuff was bitten from Skida. The Performance Center models a lot of their training structure off of the Wrestle Factory because of who they have there with Sarah
Mm-hmm.
Del Rey.
Sure.
Skida. He's just he's at Bandito's gym currently teaching all of Bandito's students.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wild how a man uh, who even admittedly is not great in front of is not great at connecting with a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Training is incredible. It's just being able to spread what he does far and wide. It's just awesome. It's awesome to see and look and peel back and try to uh, 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon with Skida and
Mm-hmm.
people around the world of how can I connect the dots of uh, who my trainers were versus their trainers, and why do we all come back to the grandfather of Skida?
Yeah, that's really cool. Just like you said, being able to link, things that we're looking at right now, things that are shaping what wrestling looks like right now, and being able to connect those back to one person who really just put something out there that is probably going to continue to influence generations long after we're all gone. And
No doubt.
some of these people don't get enough credit for what they do. So yeah, very cool.
Very cool.
All right. So
I have one last question because I'm just curious.
Answer.
Because we've talked about many of your accolades, what you've done in your career, where you've been, your big shows, but I want to know, in your mind, what was the biggest show that you've worked in your career up to this point?
It's an easy answer. It's a fun answer. The biggest show, both by numbers and impact, in the wrestling world. I got to wrestle on Jushin Liger's retirement from the Tohoku region of Japan.
Man,
wow.
that's
Over 1,000 people in that
awesome.
building.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
That's so cool.
That's I mean, just to think about what that means to be a part of that. I mean, just how you how you look at anything else and say, like, this is anything is ever going to be bigger than what I've done here. Like, that's incredible, and I'm sure a great honor to be a part of something like that.
Yeah, and for some reason it just clicked on me that I think I only won once or twice in Japan, and one of those times was on Jushin Liger's retirement from the Tohoku region of Japan show
Mhm.
with the Chikara special. So
That's
Very
that's
cool.
just-
Yeah.
what a terrible
cool.
time for Michinoku Pro. What a dark day for them to have both
Yeah.
me submitting one of their longtime wrestlers in the middle of the ring with the Chikara special, and also Liger retiring in a tag team match with Sasuke and Dick Togo and Jinsei Shizaki.
Well,
Same show, just
listen, I mean, there's
terrible.
there's only one way to get out of the Chikara special that I've ever heard of, and I don't think it made it to Japan yet.
No, Happy Man did not know that he could have just kicked me in the head a bunch of times instead of submitting.
That's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do. It's just
That's the
you know?
free leg. I didn't even hit him with the Chikara special green. I didn't even hit him with my own variation. I just did the
Yeah.
regular one and said, "Watch this, world."
Yeah.
exactly. Watch this. See what I can do.
Yeah,
That's great.
big win.
Yeah. So before we kind of wrap things up here, you know, the more and more that we do this show, and the more and more that we talk about professional wrestling, and I'm sure it's only going to continue because I had a conversation with somebody last week. Like, we're at the point in our lives where a lot of our heroes, a lot of our legends, a lot of the people that we look up to are getting to that point in life where people could be gone at any day. So obviously this past week we had the passing of the Iron Sheik, another legend in our business. Here's a guy who again, if you've watched his biography on A&E, if you know anything about him, he's had just a ridiculous life, the obstacles that he overcame to get where he was. But I don't think this guy gets enough credit.
He was a true trailblazer of the time, a true trailblazer.
Well, and he was,
sure.
yeah, and he was a transitional champion, really, when you look at it. But here's a guy who defeated Bob Backlund after his long reign, and then he's the guy who Hogan beat. So like he's a part of the whole start of this, rise of Hulkamania and just the rise of Hulk Hogan. So definitely does not get enough credit. So let me ask you: have you ever had any interaction with the Iron Sheik? Have you ever been on shows or been where he's at, or?
Surprisingly, no. Like I feel like he was on shows often,
Mhm.
but like never one that I was on, which disappointing. Man,
Yeah.
I could have gone for a Hogan hate uh spiel in person.
Yeah. So I saw him one time. Well, I actually saw him twice, but I went to a convention in New Jersey called Legends of the Ring. It's a popular convention every year. And so I went there one year, and they had the Iron Sheik and Bob Backlund sitting next to each other at a table. So if you've never met Bob Backlund in person, let me tell you, it's a treat, but it's also the most confusing and insane time you might ever live through. This guy is ridiculous. He will go out in the lobby and he will berate fans while they're in the lobby because they're plebeians and they don't know about their history and politics. This is a guy that even if you pay for an autograph, will harass you into trying to name all the presidents in order to get his autograph. Like he lives the gimmick, but it's like insanity. So he's sitting next to the Iron Sheik, and I'm way over on the other side of the room. So I really shouldn't be able to hear him, but it seems like Bob Backlund yells everything. So all of a sudden, over a sea of people, you see Bob Backlund stand up on the table and scream at the top of his lungs, "Will somebody please get the Iron Sheik a sandwich? My friend the Iron Sheik is hungry." And he just stood there yelling that until somebody brought a sandwich over. So that's
hilarious.
That's my interaction with the Iron Sheik. But yeah. So again, another legend gone. I'm afraid we'll have to do this more times than not.
Unfortunately,
it's just we're at that point where everybody's kind of getting in that age bracket where a lot of the guys that really we kind of knew growing up, the legends and the names that people talk about now, they're all getting to that age where anything could happen. And it's interesting that the Iron Sheik was getting so much due now, especially with the A&E biography, and then this happens. So condolences to friends, family, and those who knew and loved the Iron Sheik. So, with that being said, looks like we're about ready to wrap things up here. But let's tell everybody where they can find you online first.
I believe I am at Ultimo Ant on all of the social medias that you could probably want to find me on. Twitter, Instagram. I tried to grab just the regular version of at Ultimo Ant.
Mhm.
Upcoming shows I have. Oh, dates are going to be the real Fun time. Dates and locations. That's what they tell you kids to know.
Yes, dates and locations. Very, very, very important.
Yeah. The 24th, I am in Central PA for a festival of some sort. And of some sort.
Wow.
And then the 25th, I'm back in Philadelphia at Philomoka
Hey.
for
Oh,
Labor of Love. I believe this is it's a charity show. We're benefiting one of the worthy causes that are plaguing the Philadelphia area.
mhm.
Um, that's of the two upcoming bookings that I certainly know and have been announced for.
Very cool.
Very good.
I
So,
know I'll be in Vermont
mhm.
as often as Vermonters will let me in. So if you're one of my Vermont friends, keep an eye out. You'll hear about it before the world will.
Yeah, very cool. So, and of course, this is going to now light fires under promoters. Everybody is going to want to get Ultimo Ant on their show, and honestly, if you don't, you should. So, what's the best way if somebody wants to inquire about booking you for a show? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Twitter DMs, as archaic as it sounds, are great ways to reach out to me. I see those often, unless Ralph tells you otherwise. But that's just been a busy week.
Yeah.
Um, and then on my Twitter bio and all of my social media bio, there's an email address, anthillwrestles@gmail.com. That is a great place to send your booking inquiries, and I will get back to you there in a more professional format with a signature line at the bottom.
Oh,
So
very cool.
if you
Yeah.
guys like emails that start off with hello and your name and
Hmm.
end with thanks, comma Ultimo Ant, I'm your guy.
Wow. I think I'm gonna book you to hang out for the afternoon just so I can get that email.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
that's a standard reply. The when the booking is confirmed, it's a warm regards.
Oh,
So
very cool.
Best
Yeah,
email
see,
ever.
that's class right there.
Just
That's
a class. Just a class act.
yeah, that's very classy. I like
it's
it.
you get what you pay for here, guys.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So, Sean, where can people find you?
At pretty much all the medias similar to Ultimo, I am at Harmacheezel.
Very cool.
Again, I always say, try to spell the last part. You're probably not going to figure it out.
It's not hard to find me. I'm pretty much everywhere at Real Ralph 316 because that's how I roll. And of course, if you want to get in contact with us here at the show, we are on all the socials at Mancast Network. So please feel free to reach out to us, contact us, let us know what you like, what you don't like, who you want to see. We're always open to suggestions, and you can find us pretty much everywhere where you get podcasts. So please rate, review, and subscribe. We would appreciate it. We've had a great response so far, and we want to keep the Opinion City train rolling. So please get out there and interact with us. And guys, this has been a phenomenal podcast for our first guest ever, Ultimo Ant. It has been an absolute honor and a pleasure to get to spend some time with you and talk to you again. It has been far too long since we've had the opportunity to really talk. We passed craws here and there. I will say my wife was in shock when we went to the Steel Smackdowns show and you were behind your merchandise table and you called out to me and she was like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "Hey, these are my people." So yes,
It was
I am
nice
part of your
to-
people, Ralph. You let her know.
yeah.
It was nice to actually meet you for the first time, even though I've seen you live wrestle before, but not in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad when I get to my goal is to slowly pluck every fan out of the crowd and get to know at least their name and their face.
Were you
So
at
that way,
the
sorry.
fan enclave on day 2 that year?
I sure was. I was man, I was being a menace that day. There's what are they? Oh man, the brain damage is really kicking in. It's where they have the chairs, musical chairs.
Oh
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
Had to help set that up. I took some pictures with some fans. I was coordinating a podcast interview for some of my drag friends at the Nobody's podcast.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, it was that was a day. Walked past Yolanda at the Uno table. I
Oh, listen.
never get close to her with Uno though.
That Uno table was intense, and I will tell you a little secret. At one point, because Yolanda and I bonded over Uno. We actually met before that, but we bonded over Uno. And at one point, we had plans to try and host a World Series of Uno tournament at the Wrestle Factory. So we had been working on that, and it just never materialized before things shut down. And that's one of my great regrets in life, is that we never got that off the ground. But yeah, her at the Uno table was just insane. So yeah, it's been a great episode, and we want to thank our special guest, Ultimo Ant, and so we will be talking to you very soon. Thanks for listening to this episode, and we look forward to sharing our opinions with you again.
See you next week.
This is Ultimo Ant here. You're listening to Opinion City Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.